And yes, as Peter alluded to, I'll be your Thai church bell for the afternoon. My name is Duncan. I'm abandoned mine restoration project manager with Trout Unlimited. I have the pleasure of working with Jason Willis, who spoke earlier. And yeah, but let's walk through a little bit of the Good Samaritan legislation as it stands and as we hope for it to develop into. So as Mayor Larson mentioned this morning, mining is our heritage in Colorado. It established many of the towns that we live in, enjoy recreating in. We have it to thank for the expansion of the West, our Industrial Revolution supplies, warships and planes, and of course all the technology that we're using today. Unfortunately, we're still seeing the impacts in our environment and in our communities. So what's been done thus far? 2 years ago at this conference, they established the San Juan Clean Water Coalition. The hope was to pursue site-specific Good Samaritan legislation for the San Juan region. This was at the urging of Senator Bennett and Representative Tipton, and started with a small coalition of businesses, organizations, and individuals who were in support of Good Sam. It's grown, and grown well. Over the past 2 years, we now have over 120 regional businesses, local and national NGOs, and thousands of individuals really interested in this work. Things were going well until volcano disaster. And while we all do view it as kind of the worst case scenario, the worst of the worst that can happen at an abandoned mine, we do need to keep things in perspective. In this region, as we've all been talking this morning, obviously we have a lot of background metals. We have some challenging environmental conditions in the area already. We need to keep in mind that Cement Creek has always been a challenging creek. It's always had poor water quality, and the Animus has always been impacted by natural and anthropogenic sources since mining started in the area. Keep in mind too that this was not the first plume spillover disaster that impacted the Animus. In 1975, there was a tailings pond breach that dumped 50,000 tons of tailings into the Animus and completely killed the fishery there. Then in 1978, the Lake Emma disaster, there's 500 million gallons that went into the Animus, and in Gold King it was only 3 million. So then we need to talk about the current, past, and loading, current and past loading situation in the Animus. It equates to about 30 Gold Kings a year. And obviously that does vary in toxicity. Unfortunately, this was a media spectacle, and it was highly politicized. There was a lot of discussion about it, good, bad, and otherwise. Maybe it got people interested in abandoned mines. Maybe they'd never thought about it before, so maybe a good thing. So we need to keep working, and we need to talk about how to do so and how to do so effectively. Across the West, there are over 500,000 abandoned hard rock mines. These impact 40% of the western headwater streams. And at this point in time, only the EPA is suited to address draining adits. This can be a real challenge for them, obviously. They've had some budget cuts and some issues with staffing. And really it's one agency with a huge problem that needs to be dealt with. So that's where we're hoping Good Sam will help expand those efforts. Often we see these mines with worse draining adits in small rural and high mountain communities. That can be very tough to address and very hard to get the interest level that these mines require. And of course, the price tag should be noted. For these 500,000 abandoned mines, we're looking at a cleanup cost of $9.6 to $21 billion. That's a huge price tag for one agency alone to address. When we talk about these sites, we're looking at non-point source and point source. Talk a little bit more about these. Non-point source contamination has to do with our tailings and our waste rock piles. These are kind of dispersed areas of contamination. This is where you'll see a lot of acid mine drainage because of water in the form of snowmelt and rain interacting with pyritic materials and of course oxidizing over time. You'll see piles with creeks below them, drainage over them, and then you'll see a lot of collapsing and erosion into those water sources. Currently, these are treated as soil runoff contamination under the Clean Water Act. So our cleanups in these areas involve a lot of what we've talked about already today. You're relocating the waste piles, you're rerouting water around those piles, you're capping either with an ET or impermeable liners to prevent infiltration. These are cleanups that we can address right now. We perform them regularly at TU and other watershed associations around the state. But the more challenging ones are these point source contamination issues. And really these are the draining adits. The bulkhead presentation earlier really highlighted those sources and what we can see there. This is where acid mine drainage is coming out of the portal or adit itself is considered industrial pollution. So to address these, you do need a pollution discharge permit, and that's where the challenge lies. If you obtain one of these permits, then you are held to water quality standards, and often that would require active treatment of these sites that can be hugely expensive and really more than a watershed group who's willing and wanting can take on. So what sites are we looking at? We're not looking at every site. We're not looking at Duncan every time. We're looking at sites that don't have a responsible party here, or a PRP. We're looking at abandoned or orphaned mines, usually with smaller discharges of about 100 gallons per minute or less. These are sites that may not get as much attention in EPA's world just because they are smaller. There are sites where we could employ engineered wetlands or settling ponds, and where no electricity is needed or if it's not available in the area. So who would do this work? It would be groups like Trout Limited, like a lot of these watershed partnerships and nonprofit and citizen groups around the states. We'd also look for support from our state mine remediation agencies, and these would be really collaborative efforts, and that's the key. So what does this legislation do or not do? And that's something that we really need to talk about. So what it does do is it increases the community's capacity for cleanup. It would add on to EPA's efforts. It would allow us to address different sites in a different way. This does give us liability relief of a permanent responsibility and the discharge permit here. Like we mentioned earlier, we're looking for an improvement in water quality, not necessarily meeting the standards. The better than it was is the important part here. But something to keep in mind, there are a lot of fail-safes involved in this legislation. So it would require significant EPA and CDPHE involvement. We're looking at a stringent permitting process, bonding requirements, engineering and mitigation plans, emergency plans, and then allowing that partial cleanup as we mentioned before. But what it does not do is allow anyone who wants to work on the mine to take their backhoe and head up the hill. So we do have a lot of built-in processes that would help make sure that these are successful. And also important to keep in mind, this does not give liability relief to any Good Sam in the event that they worsen the problem. So where do we stand today? In 2016, the most recent version of this legislation was drafted between Tipton and Pennant. Unfortunately, those negotiations have stalled because of the citizen suit provision. This provision has always allowed citizens to file a suit for damages or permit violations, but the concern is that it would be a further disincentive to Good Samaritan organizations who would like to take on this work. There is hope for a resolution that could be covered under permitting processes there. But this is a challenging congressional climate for this kind of legislation. Thankfully, we still have the success of the support of Senator Gardner, and the hope is that this legislation can continue to move forward. And with that, I'll take some questions and comments. Again, Ty should be here tomorrow, so if you want to follow up with him as well, he can definitely give you a lot of information. Yes, sir.
I didn't see any mention of U.S. Forest Service or BLM, and I believe most of these sites are embedded within the federal lands. What are their roles in
That's an excellent question. So the question was, what are BLM and U.S. Forest Service's roles in this Good Samaritan legislation? You're correct that a lot of these sites would be on their land. So I imagine that we would continue to work with them as a project partner. In our role right now, they provide some really great technical support, and I imagine that would continue. Yes.
Opponents of the legislation are concerned with remining activities as part of this. So basically dodging Clean Water Act liability during the process of remining for-profit materials that are left on the site. Is this a well-founded concern? Is that possible in your view?
So the question was, what about the concern for remining, that this allows folks who want to mine for profit to dodge the Clean Water Act? And do I think that's a concern? I don't think that's a concern. I think what this legislation is intended to do, maybe that's a better way to put it. I don't think it's a concern given the intended result of this legislation. I believe what it's intended to do is to expand cleanup efforts at draining adits, period. I think this would allow groups like ours, groups like the Clear Creek Watershed, groups like all of the ones down here on the animus that we see who are technically able to get after these sites and to do good cleanup work. Whether it allows for remining, I think it's maybe in the language of the legislation that we look at. Yes, sir.
So what about
The question is, what about money? And that's actually come up quite a bit today. I think a lot of us are wondering about how this would be funded, and how, honestly, about how the cleanup efforts in the future will be funded for in general, whether it's point source or not point source. I think we'll continue to look, especially for our organization as a nonprofit, we'll continue to look for grant funding opportunities. Our program receives a lot of funding from mining companies. Newmont and Freeport McMoran are great partners for us. So I think we continue to see their buy-in and their support, especially because it would support their efforts. Yeah.
How many gallons?
At Gold King, how many gallons per minute?
Yeah.
Anyone else in the room? 650. Thank you. Ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
the citizens' lawsuit? Would those be directed at?
Well, I believe the concern is that the Good Samaritan itself would be sued. So, like, for in our case, Trout Unlimited. And that's where the disincentive comes in. Yep. Oh, yep.
Would the proposed Good Samaritan legislation be an amendment to the Clean Water Act or to
Yes.
certain?
No, to the Clean Water Act as it stands.
I was just going to add to that, why would somebody sue somebody for improving water quality?
There's a question. So the question is, why would you sue if you're improving water quality? One, you're worried about the standard. If you don't meet the standard, that would be a concern. Obviously not a concern that's covered under the legislation, since we're just trying to improve water quality, not meet the standard. Another would probably be if they perceived a worsening of water quality or environmental quality. Those obviously would need to be taken seriously and addressed to make sure that that wasn't the case. Obviously, that's not what's intended. And I think you had a follow-up question? Yes.
Just maybe a follow-up statement. Answer this gentleman's question about regulation. How, if you're going to go back in and remine, it depends on the state, but in the state of New Mexico, we would make them permits. They would have to comply with all the current.
Right. That's a great point to make, that, yeah, if you were going to go back in and remind you.
That's the same thing as the state.
Anybody else? Yeah.
I was just curious where you're not. Yeah. Is that
To tell you the source, I would need to get back to you. We have that on separate PowerPoints that I need to get to you, and I will, and I'm happy to do so. As far as sharing with the public, I do think that it highlights what the problem is. It really brings it into reality for a lot of folks. They say, oh, 500,000, that sounds like a lot, but they're like small mines, right? It's no big deal. But when you put the price tag on, I think it does really clarify the issue.